So, efficient allocation of resources. What is this? What am I doing it for? How does it happen? And so basically it's talking about the allocation of your resources on a given project, and how we can productively and efficiently use those resources. There are sort of three types. Now, I didn't make this up. I sourced this from somewhere. So there's three types here. There's a technical efficiency. What are your current resources? And how can you use them without any greater input to achieve a greater output? So aside from maybe providing some training to improve their outputs, what do you have and what level can you get, and how can you maximize that level of efficiency from those current resources? We have allocative efficiency. We have, so you've got this number of resources. Well, how can we best allocate them to use them at their highest value? So if you've got different employees with different skill levels, you need to make sure that the highest skill level person is not photocopying your drawings. And that's, how do we schedule that and how do we track that? And the last one is dynamic efficiency. So how do I move my resources around efficiently to maximize both of those other technical and allocative efficiencies, right? So how quickly can I move someone or something between industries, tasks, jobs, in order to, again, get the most efficient use out of my team? So next, how do we achieve this? So we're going to be talking about all of these within the context of a construction management software, specifically the Autodesk Construction Cloud today. So everything I do is going to be sort of brought back to that, of course. And so the construction management software, even if you aren't using the ACC, you may have something you're using already. That is, so it should be, and if it is not, then we probably want to rethink what it's doing for you, but it should be helping you with the rest of the points on this list and the points on the previous, right? It should be bringing data to the forefront for you. It should be tracking information, identifying and bringing issues to the forefront for you. If it's not, maybe you need to enable some other things. Maybe you need to check out a different software. Maybe Excel just isn't meant to do that. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. And so to achieve your best EAR, efficient allocation of resources, we need to first understand the project scope and the required resources for that scope. So what kind of project is it? Is it bigger than anything I've done before? It's just a simple project? Is it phased? How is phasing going to affect my resource allocation, right? We need to figure out what resources we need, and if I have a large pool, how many of each type of those resources can I use and will I best use on this project? After that, we need to identify shortcomings and any risks that come with this project, right? So if I haven't done a project of this scope before, I'm going to have shortcomings and risks, and I may not even understand what they are yet. And so we're going to, ahead of time, we're going to document and figure out, talk to other people who have different experiences on our projects, and we're going to figure out what we might be facing on this project or on a given project. And ideally, as we move forwards with more projects, we're going to be establishing systems to improve on anything that didn't go as planned on existing projects. So where does the construction management software come in on both of those points? Well, on the first project, we can only track what we have done on that project, right? We don't have prior information to inform us what we could be doing better going forwards. But after this project and after every project we start, we're going to be growing our data levels. We're going to be growing the amount of information that we know about how we perform on a given project or a project type. And it's going to improve our ability to identify any risks. It's going to improve our established systems so that we can make some changes going forward so that those established systems are changing with our needs. And all of this, kind of leads into the second, or the third, fourth, and fifth points. So document resources and proper tracking. So document resources, is that, what does that mean? Is that the resources that I have documented already? Yes. And it's also that you need to document those resources. So I need to document resources so that on the next go around, I have documented resources to go back to. So your staff, whether they haven't worked on a project of that type before, or whether they're just new to the system, they know what processes are in place and what resources they have, and how you would normally go about allocating those resources, just to make their time more efficient in setting this next project up. So every time we do something, we should be improving even just a little bit. And all of this comes back to the proper tracking of all of that information. So if we are getting proper resource tracking, proper risk tracking, and proper systems out of this, we are going to be able to have a very robust set of data to inform us on every new project going forward. And that is what right now the Autodesk Construction Cloud is working for us to be able to do. Now, obviously, when we talk about efficiency, everybody falls into the sort of looking at the numbers and forgetting that a lot of those numbers are actually people. So don't forget about the people side of this. Build in those times, build in those breaks, build in those, thought processes that include the people, and review your resource plan. So all of this kind of happens on a project, and on our projects going forwards, we should be reviewing what has gone on, what we have discussed, what we have discovered about ourselves and our projects. And so if something is upsetting at the beginning of a project and it didn't go well on this project, we need to document that so that by the time we start our next project, either someone has looked at that problem and worked to fix it, or at the very least, we know that this is a problem and needs to be fixed. And when we start the understanding and identifying, the second and third point here on the next project, we have that documented statement in place that says, boy, this stunk on the first project, and it upset a lot of people, it upset our workflow. We need to fix that going forwards. So that is the goals and the benefits of achieving a decent resource allocation, and how construction management software can help with that. And we're going to just continue to dig further into all of these to figure out how ACC can show you those results. Oh, I always press the wrong button when I'm in these presentations. So just a little bit about ACC in general. The Autodesk Construction Cloud has a number of different modules. You can purchase them all separate. Docs is the underlying system for all of the future, all of these other modules. And it's file storage, transmittals, document markups, issue tracking, all of that can happen within the Docs module as a base layer. And then we start to add modules to that. So coordinate would be one step up, where I'm not authoring drawings, but I can find, review, coordinate as in clash detect on those models. So then we get further with Collaborate Pro, which is our model authors. So your designers, your engineers, they're going to be working in the cloud with a Revit model and collaborating with each other so that they're looking at, great up-to-date data, and all of that data is feeding the Coordinate and the Docs modules behind it, as well as going forwards, we have Takeoff. So this is a quantification module, so cloud quantification, 2D and 3D abilities to quantify materials, and it works from models being pushed forwards into build from the Collaborate area. And then we've got what we're talking about today, which is build and cost. Now, build includes cost as one module, but they are very sort of separate pieces in a sense. So cost is definitely a separate piece of the build module, and we're going to do a little short demo of cost specifically today so that everybody can see what it really does. So now, aside from that, build has something called an insight tool, and this is where all of the data I've been talking about so far is being gathered and translated into data that you can read. So it's not just a big, all of the granular data, right, in these Excel sheets or CSV files. We need it to be visible. And so there's scheduling data extraction tools that we can schedule so that every Friday at 5:00 a.m. Something is generated, and so Monday morning I have all of the latest updated data about any given projects that I'm working on, and I can move forwards using that data. I can check them out in Power BI templates. There are templates available through the ACC system, pre-built. You download them, you look at them local on your computer, or there's a system to get them brought back into the ACC so that we can display live, essentially, data coming from those data extractions daily, weekly, monthly, going forwards. And so this is how we are getting that information and how you are able to use information that is already yours for your own benefit with no added costs. This isn't a separate tool. It just happens within the ACC. Information you put in is turned around, grouped, and extracted again. And so this is just a little screenshot of the extraction list after I've made a few extractions, scheduled weekly, Friday at 2 a.m. What information I can extract. There's up to 20 categories here we can extract, and just my little setup here. All right, so this is an example of just a small one. I'll enlarge it in a little bit, of an RFI, a Power BI dashboard for RFIs. And so when we think of all of the data on a project and all of the things that can go wrong, or information that we want to know more about in order to improve our processes, RFIs is one of those things that nobody can escape. Every project you've ever been on has had at least one RFI, if not more. And the latest stats say that an RFI, the length of time an RFI takes to be answered can be anywhere from like 7 to 10 days, which is a huge delay for that person asking that, and thus for the whole project. The cost of an RFI, for every $1 million in construction costs, we're looking at 10 RFIs, almost 10 RFIs per $1 million. So the more time, the larger your project gets, your 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 RFIs. And over a larger project, that can amount to almost $1 million in costs associated with just answering these RFI questions, right? Delays, time and effort involved in answering those questions. And it seems like if somebody's answering a question, I should be able to answer it quickly, or if somebody's asking a question, I should be able to answer it quickly. So if we could, through one of these Power BI dashboards, extract the RFI information on a project and turn that around to then reduce the number of RFIs on the next project, that would be beneficial, right? Sounds like a good idea. So, I mean, we have to think about our RFIs and say, okay, well, what can I do to reduce that number? What are the processes I can improve, right? So is it simply that the RFIs coming in are just a lack of access to the right information? And if I simply enabled their folder access within the system so that they could extract that information from documentation that's already been created, then maybe I could solve my own problems, right? They can access it. I don't have to, no question it gets asked. Is it just a miscommunication? Does the person asking that problem not realize how little the person they're asking knows about that given problem? And so can we just improve the communication through, let's say, the RFI form? Are we slow to respond because what? the data has to be found by the person being asked the question. So this person now goes, oh God, I gotta find where that question would even be documented, or that element would even be documented before I can even begin to answer it. Then I have to talk to 10 different people to understand who did this and who can answer my question that's being asked of me. So can we centralize our data better? Can we document and standardize where and how that information is being documented, so that I can always know where it is? And then if I am asked the question, maybe it's as simple as providing access to the question asker to get access to that documentation. So there's a lot of little things that can happen. And if we treat the Autodesk Construction Cloud as our single source of truth, everybody's heard that lingo these days, maybe we can get all of that information in here and just shorten those answering times a little bit, right? And so, sorry, this is an expanded dashboard here. This came from the Autodesk Construction Cloud templated dashboards for us. This one is all about RFIs on an account level. So we have account and project level insights for these. And so now I can filter. The blue and the yellow here are filters, so I can filter by project type or name, different statuses or categories of RFIs if I really just want to dig into one particular type. But I can see how many RFIs have come in per month. What is the status of those existing RFIs per discipline, per category, right? It looks like, architectural is leading the pack here in RFIs asked. So maybe I got to go and figure out what it is they're missing. Incomplete documentation is a big, we got 13 incomplete documentation requirements. So is it missing, right? Or did we just have a bad document, right? So how do we solve that? Well, knowing what is causing the problem is the first step. So we have a lot of data here, and it does, sort of fall to you. We've done our best to organize it on the Autodesk side of things, but it also does fall to you. Too much data is just as bad as not enough data. You don't even know where to start, what to prioritize. So you have to internally ask yourselves and your employees and your team, what is it that we want to see in order to improve these processes? And you start small, right? Figure out what category or what discipline is causing the most questions, and we go from there. But having the data is definitely a start. So continuing on with our RFIs, when we talk about improving the process of those RFIs, what can I do? I have a few screenshots here generally about what I could do, and they were kind of referring back to Bill. So I thought I might share my screen at this point. Let me just pick which one, this one right here. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my screen. If they can't, I don't know, pop something into the chat. Misty will let me know. But in the build side of things, in the RFIs area here, I have a draft RFI ready to go. So this thing I don't know, and I've got a brief question. So I've said, where does this element get installed? And I've got a suggestion already. My solution would be, I would install this below the counter, not above the counter, but your drawings are unclear. Where do you want it? And most of this information is out of the box. This is just how the Autodesk Construction Cloud requests RFI data, right? So there's standard information. There's also an additional information area where it asks for like priority or discipline or category. And these are, again, important. If we don't fill those out, we can't extract that level of data. But I've got a couple of customized pieces of information. So anything that we build in the Construction Cloud can be customized in order to improve our, not just data extraction, right? Our experience within the system. I don't want to get an RFI and have no idea what the guy's talking about with some question that is just, I just don't understand. So maybe I can require or I can add checklists or pieces of information that would help me better understand what I've been asked. So did they provide the location in the question? So I at least go to the context on the documentation, right? This is in the main office. Okay, great. Did they supply a potential solution? Maybe they didn't, but maybe they did, and maybe that's, I'm just going to check this off. So this is something that they would look through and say, okay, yes, I have a location. Oh, no, I didn't. Let me go add it. Do I need or have documentation or photos that would go along with this? They're not all relevant all the time, but it's like a checklist to jog their memories. Also, you could have on their side when they're filling this out, what do they want from you as the answer, right? And you could give them some options. I just need permission to proceed with my suggested solution. And that makes your job really easy. Yep, I like your solution, go ahead. Maybe they need more additional documentation to proceed. So that if they check that off, you know immediately what they need and you can go start to source it. Or I need to have a conversation or a meeting with someone to make this a realistic solution, right? So you give them some options. And if we can clarify this process for everybody by customizing our RFIs, again, we can reduce the number of RFIs, we can improve the speed at which they are answered, and which data is accessed. So customization is definitely important. All right, now I'm going to unshare my screen again. There we go. And we'll go back to PowerPoint. I know everybody loves PowerPoint. So now RFIs can be turned into change orders. And I should have shown you that before I turned off my screen, but that's okay. It's an easy process. So through the RFI, I can attach or add a reference of, let's say, a PCO. And so I can turn my RFI into a change order if it needs to be, and then finish tracking it on that side of things. So I've got my change orders, I can track them, and this side happens out in build, but in the cost management side of build, because then we're going to start attaching numbers to this, our costs, and tracking them across the process. So, you know, you can see here we've got, starts with a PCO, potential change order, and then from there, depending on what we identify in our potential change order, we're going to generate the further documentation. If you're using it, you can use a request for quotation that goes downstream to your suppliers, your subcontractors. You've got your change order request, which goes upstream to owners, or contractors, whoever's above you in that system, and we get everybody's approval. We submit all kinds of costs with that, and everybody gets it approved. And then we go out for the official, okay, here's the owner change order, here's the supplier change order, make this official, let's get this done, and let's track all of this. And so here's the process. Once I've got a PCO, I can generate RFQs and SCOs through that, even a brand new contract for a new supplier if that's necessary. And then I can track all of this: estimated, proposed, submitted, approved, and committed costs. And so an RFI then can become not only project data on the build side, it becomes budget data on the PM side and the accounting side, which is, again, always incredibly valuable if you've got a lot of change orders. They don't all start from an RFI, but if you've got a lot of change orders coming through, it's great to be able to track that. And all of that information on the change order side comes through and back into your original budget. So you can see what your original budget was and how those change orders have affected that. All right, so I'll just pause here. So to summarize, if you aren't already using Autodesk Construction Cloud, Autodesk Build, or any other construction management software, hopefully this has shown you what kind of benefits you should be getting from a construction management software, right? Having everybody in there in one place is one thing, right? We can, simplify a lot of information. But being able to extract information after we've already spent all that time entering that data, that's the second step, right? Does your construction management software do this for you? And it should. Data is where we are headed. Big data, I know it's got this evil connotation, but when it's working for you, I think it's a good thing. Right. So get a demo of the ACC, get a demo of any construction management software you're interested in, and make sure that you understand what you want out of that software. Because if you go into that meeting without knowing what you want, they're going to sell you anything. Ask pointed questions about data and about what your goals are, and make sure that they can match them. Okay, so now we will head into a little bit of a cost management demo. Like I said, I have a lot of information to give you, so we'll keep this part brief. And so, demo. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. Entire screen. This one. Okay. All right, so if you can see my screen again, I'm still in build, so I'm just going to switch tabs and go over to the cost management module within the same project. And so cost management is the money side of things. So we can follow the money through the system. And there are a few different elements to the cost module here. So I'm on the home tab. This is where I get, updates and reviews on a kind of a summary level basis here. But I'm just going to jump into budget, cost, and then change orders. Change orders we already sort of talked about, but that seems to be the question du jour. Everybody coming to us wanting to talk about costs is, I really want to track my change orders here. How do I do it? And I'm just going to start with budget, because in order to track your change orders, we have to have some sort of budget built into the system. So we need to know where your change order bucket of money is, charging against. So I can't start anything in the change orders just independently of the budget and the cost. So we're going to need to set up a budget. We've got budget codes, we've got names, and then just going across here, we can see, you see your original budget, and as things change throughout the project, you're going to see budget transfers being tracked, owner changes being tracked, and you're going to get updates on your budget as you are moving through this project. So you have, I want to say, unfettered access, to that information. You don't have to go to accounting. You don't have to pull very specific budget reports out of here. You have every budget item here and how it's been affected through the project process. Okay. And custom columns can be made in here. So far, we haven't had to make too many, because everything in here, even though it may not share the name you expect, has a formula going behind it, and maybe it's what you're looking for already. But they can be customized. They can also be filtered and grouped. So if this flat budget grouping doesn't work for you, we could group it by, let's say, the CSI type number or the cost type number, so I can see all of my different styles going below. And I can group it in different ways just to help me clarify. I can save those views for my own personal use or everybody's use. Once I make my budget, I push elements from the budget. Doesn't have to be the whole thing, but I push elements from that budget into the main contract area. So main contract being your schedule of values, your main contract coming from upstream. This is your contract with your owner, with your subcontractor, with your general contractor if you are a subcontractor, and so on. So this is your upstream workflow. And everything that goes into your main contract, I've got a couple here, so you can set up more than one main contract or contract as schedule of values here. And that's what we bill against in our budget payment application. So I can bill against any of the contracts I have per a custom set of payment periods. And as I go through this, I say, all right, well, I'm going to be billing for 10% of the work or $300,000 worth of work throughout this, for this billing period against this particular budget item. And you can view, work completed on last time's application compared to this, so you can continually ramp up and see your total and your balance remaining. And at the end, there's also retention. Where did that go? So retention can be set up in your settings, so it's always the same, always here, but it can also be manually changed or removed here for that final payment application when all the funds are released. Now, going forwards, we've got our upstream. This is our agreement with our owner, our contractor. We have downstream. So we've got our cost or contracts area. So this is where my subcontracts, my supplier contracts, my downstream information is going to be. And so I set up all of my contracts here. And I have everything that's blue. I can click on and pull out a little sidebar here, which has way more information than you might see in these columns going across. And so I'm going to go through and I'm going to tie this particular contract back to a budget item. I'm going to pick what type of contract it is, subcontract, purchase order, internal, and so on. I'm going to set up my supplier details, my scope of work, my schedule of values for that particular contract item. And if this is me as the general contractor doing this work, I may be receiving this information from my subs and I'm going to put it in here myself. But I also have the option to invite them to the project. They would need a build license for that. And they can fill this out. They can build this contract and fill out this information. And through these processes up here of submission and workflows, they would submit that contract to you for approval. So you're not building it from their Excel file. So it really can depend on your current workflow, but the goal is to get everybody sort of into the same construction management software so we can all work together. And there's document packages that are generated every time you create a budget, a schedule of values, a budget payment application or cost payment application. There are documentations that can be created within the system, customized to look like your documentation. You can upload your documentation from the computer or attach any other files that you have already stored in your files or docs system. So this, again, is meant to be a single source of truth. It's going to track and keep an eye on all of this data for you right here. So there's no more emails to search through, no more folder structure that you have to search through. I just go to my contracts area. I find the contract I'm looking for, and all of that documentation is going to be here. Not that you can't save it out and have it backed up somewhere else. That is definitely possible, but this is the starting point, right? So we've got our contracts. Cost payment applications are the same as they were in the budget, right? I've got a cost payment application. Let me pull that out to its main view. And I'm going to go across this, indicate what I'm billing for in this period, and submit that. So right now this says set as paid because I'm halfway through this. It's already been approved. And now I just have to say, oh, yep, I've gotten paid, or I have paid that application, and I'm going to set this as paid in the system. Right. So again, if you guys have any questions about this, first of all, you can get a more extensive demo from us if you're looking for that sort of information, but you can always, we'll be around to ask questions at the end. And the big one here is change orders. Now we saw a little bit of that process a couple of minutes ago. So our change order system, no matter what, RFI or not, starts on a PCO. So I'm going to create a PCO that says, okay, well, this is the potential change order at this point. Where does it go from there? So I can go down here to, let's find a draft one here. And basically I have a main contract that PCO is going to get attached to, and I can set up, is this an in scope, out of scope, budget change, contingency type of CO, and I can go through and fill out all of this information. The most important information, however, is the in scope, out of scope, because that determines the workflow for these further pieces of documentation. So once I have my scope, I know what other documentations are going to be needed, right? Is this going out to an RFQ and then to the owner, to the supplier, or do I skip the RFQ side of things? So some of these workflows can be modified, right? I can skip the RFQ or change order request steps and go straight from PCO to an owner change order. A lot of people are doing that, but you can go through the whole system. So as I jump forwards here, we'll follow our door handles change. I can go into the RFQ for that, and I can see it's been accepted. I've got all kinds of information again in here. I can, if I haven't already, this is what happens with demos. I can generate document packages as I work through each one of these steps. Okay, and there it goes. And so I've gone from an RFQ to a supplier change order. Here's my door handles change. And again, I can generate documentation. I can add documentation from previous steps. So by the time I get to the owner or the supplier, if they need to see any of that previous documentation, it's easy to add. I can simply add it from the RFQ or add it from the PCO and have that attached going forwards. So you don't have to find it. It knows this is the PCO that's attached to, or this is the SCO that's attached to that PCO. And I know that there was a linear progression of documentation that I need to attach here. And again, any of these flyouts will always have an add references. So if this started from an RFI, I can attach the RFI. If there are other information required to be attached to any of these change orders and somebody is doing that or creating that information in the build side of things, I can attach it here. Single source of truth, everything in one spot, everything related to everything else. Okay, so these are the biggies. While I'm here, before I forget, I did say we are tracking all of these costs going forwards. So I can see what was estimated, I can see what was ultimately proposed, what was submitted and approved. And so every time we create one of these pieces, somebody fills in a little more of that information, and eventually we get to what we were committed on. And that, when these guys reach the status of approved or ultimately executed, all of that information feeds back into my budget. And that's where I get my approved change orders column here happening and adding up all of my change orders, my pending change orders for anything that hasn't quite been approved yet, but is coming down the pipe. So I can really see and anticipate what my costs are going to be. And then I get my actual cost at the end of all of this after these change orders have come in. So what I've spent to date. Okay, so I'm going to leave this alone for now because we've got tons more to cover. And so again, I will stop sharing my screen. I will switch back to our PowerPoint demo. And we'll switch gears a little bit to talk about our quality and safety aspects in the ACC. So what we can do to help us improve and manage and monitor our quality and safety. And so it starts with the insight tool. So the insight tool is gathering information about what you are entering about safety and quality that you're reporting on, that you're creating issues about, and we can eventually turn that around and extract reports on all of that. And so if we take a look at our current, let's say, safety site inspection workflow, right? Somebody is going to go stop by the site and stop by the trailer. They're going to pick up rolls and sheets and documentations and clipboards and pens and pencils, and they're going to march out to the site and they're going to perform that inspection. They're going to document, they're going to cross-reference this. Does this match this? Does this match the site? And they're going to take photos and they're going to take a lot of notes. They're going to come back to the office and they're going to transcribe all of those, notes from the drawing back into a Word document or a form that they need to fill out. They're going to match those photos. They're going to download them from the digital camera or their phone, put them on and into that those reports. They're going to write up any infractions, fill out any forms that need to happen, and then they're going to email that report to 10, 15 people who need that information. And even on a good day, this is like a half-day process, if not longer. This is a lot of manual effort, a lot of reproducing the same content. So hopefully we can help you standardize that. With the Autodesk Construction Cloud Build mobile app, you can grab your tablet or your phone. You can take all of that information to the site. You have access to all of the data in Build, although not cost data. That is not involved yet. But you would have access to all of your Build data, all of your site information, standardized forms, safety records, and so on. So you're going to go out and you're going to pull out your standard safety forms. You're going to fill them out. They are basically smart PDF. So if you're already using a smart PDF, that's great. We can get that smart PDF into the cloud and it becomes part of this site inspection report. We fill out those forms. We take those photos, which are automatically attached to this report. And then we submit the report and it is automatically emailed to all of the different roles or people on this project who need access to that. But also it's permanently stored in the system for everybody to access. Who has permissions? It's all permission based, right? Not everybody can see everything, but it's there to be stored in a single location. So no more searching through emails for that guy's safety report from last month or longer ago. So here's just a couple of examples of those reports. Again, they're smart PDFs. So if you are already using them, super. If you have a regular old form that you print out every time, well, maybe we can turn that into a smart PDF using something like Bluebeam. They can use the forms function on that and we can create this to be a smart PDF very easily, upload it to the cloud and start using it as your standard safety forms. All right, and safety issues. So as I'm on site and I'm viewing documentation through my Sheets modules or through my other documentation in Build, I come across a safety issue. I can make that an issue right on that documentation. I just use my little tools. I poke the screen. I say, yep, there's something missing at this location. So not only does the issue it's not only is it created at the location in the project on the documentation, it's visual. I'm then going to fill out a bunch of information. So we can see here on my my slide here, I've got a bunch of open issues. Some of them are not approved. Some of them are pending. There are brand new statuses. If you're already using Build and you're like, I don't have those statuses, you do probably. They were just released in the, I'm going to say in the past 6 months. So you may just need to enable them because they are off by default, so they don't throw off any existing. So you can go into your issue settings and enable those. And I've got type safety. So I've got a safety infraction happening here with lower down. I have a root cause of another, what exactly type of safety issue this is. Is it a management issue? Is it a user or human issue? Is it a materials or an equipment issue? So I can really get granular with what this safety issue entailed. And Revit, the Construction Cloud is going to look at all of your issues and be able to extract safety-specific information to a dashboard so that we can see all of that information on an account level, so all of your projects at once, or on a project level. Just show me what's the problem with this project. And so, what do I have here? Okay, so before we get into our real-time insights, I did want to just pop back into Build and show you this information. So back in Build, sorry, I went to forms, not issues. In my issues area, I'm just going to show you that list, show you a bit of the information that can be filled out there. So I have my issues list. I'll check out this open electrical issue. So it's a safety infraction. So I can pick from a list, and down near the bottom, there's safety or safety infraction. I can add custom categories to this. And I can, again, fill out who it's assigned to. And assigning it to somebody should be important, because that is going to aggregate all of the company information of, so if you've got an extremely unsafe company, you're going to be able to identify that. Root cause, this is the one I couldn't show in my screenshot. So there are a lot of root causes: quality, safety. And so again, I can add custom information to this, but if I can keep everything within this safety category and tag everything, again, it's going to pull all of this out into a safety dashboard to be used by us to, again, inform our decision making going forwards. Okay, so this is an issue. These are my safety issues, and some of these are tied back to actual documentation, and some of them have just been created as I needed them, and they don't necessarily have a document to go back to. But I can add any references after the fact that I may need. So there's photos. If I've taken them on site, they will be uploaded to the photos area, and I can attach them here. So, all right, now we get into, I think there's a possibility you can see both my slides and my screen. So if I'm going to go forwards in my slides to, the insight. So this is the last portion here. I think I have time. The last portion. So the insights element of this, we have, again, account level and project level dashboards. We can group those dashboards by data type. We have that data connector for our extraction of all of that information. And then we have our Power BI dashboards, which we can look at on our local machines by downloading our data, or we can redirect back into the cloud so that when I'm in my project, so that's why I'm staying with my screen shared, while I'm in my project, I can then go to one of my dashboards and view my safety issues, view my cost issues, or so on. So on my screen here, I am currently looking at my executive overview, which is my account level information. There are a few dashboards that are created for you automatically. There's a cost dashboard, a design, a quality, and a safety. And they all have a certain number of what we call cards turned on. And I can always customize and go and add different cards that are available. I also have partner information, so integration. So if you're using, I don't know, Be Inventor or, any of these, they will potentially have integrations here so that you can keep track of it, again, all in one spot. Now, if I think I put my executive overview here in my cost area, and of course, despite the fact that I have logged in already today, it's going to make me sign in again, and it's going to not let me sign in. That's terrific. That's what happens when you work live. So if I can't show you this one, I will show you the real Power BI and see if we can get, there it goes. All right, just needed to refresh. So here is a dashboard that I can also show you on my Power BI desktop app. But it's been redirected. I've published it back into Build so that every time I do one of those data extractions from the data connector, I can aggregate that data on this dashboard here in Build. Now I know it's a little tiny here, but I can, there are some, there we go. I can make it a little bigger. I can go into focus mode for specific elements of that dashboard. Back to report. And I swear there was a way to make this even bigger. Copy. And this is just me not always knowing all my Power BI tools. So I can see, and here I've got budget per account per project, contracts per account per project, change orders per account per project. So I can look at each one of these individual elements, and I can go into focus mode. I can say, all right, well, this project had a ton of change orders. What is the problem here, right? I've got so many PCOs, and I'm only, 6 months into the project. What is going on? We're going to have major problems on this. Okay, so this is what these dashboards are meant to do. And I've also got a safety dashboard here. And for some reason, oh, this is my account level. So I'm just going to switch over into my project level insight, and I've got a little more built into there about safety. There it is. And so I've got my issues that I was talking about earlier. So these are all of my issues and in what status they are currently in. So I can very quickly see that I've got, you know, a couple in dispute, and I should probably get on those and basically check them out and what's going on. I can see all of my projects listed here. And now this is not just safety, but they are everything. However, I can filter them. So I could filter just a specific type out. And then I'm going to see a root cause. So what is really the cause of that safety issue? And again, it's a bar graph. So as I have more of one than another, this would change and they would all be slightly uneven sideways bars. For some reason, my safety by company is not working. So I've got to double check on that. So again, forgive my incomplete data here. There's something I need to enable that I don't have on my demo project. Sorry. But again, I can, in my customize area, in my card library, if I scroll all the way, actually, I can scroll all the way down, find Power BI, enable this, add this card, and I'm going to configure it. And this is where I start in Power BI. I publish my data to a workspace in cloud. I go to that workspace, I open up my Power BI there. I think I also have that here. I open up that Power BI and file. I embed this report and I embed it in a website or a portal, which is going to give me an HTML kind of long, big link, which I put in here. And then it's going to use that information and display it here. Now there was one more, oh yes, and the data connector. So the last thing I wanted to show you was the data connector here. I have set up, again, weekly, this is project and account level. I can have different extractions happening. And this is the data that I can download to use locally, or I can redirect through publishing my Power BI back into the cloud. Every time one of these extractions is run, the data in my card is going to be updated with that latest extraction information.